All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, folks, welcome back to the Trauma Therapist Podcast. Very excited to have as my guest today, Ellie Weinstein. Ellie, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Super excited to be here.
All right, man. So when Ellie was 19, he says that he had little to no confidence in being himself. While studying abroad, he took a Dale Carnegie course about public speaking and self-esteem building. That course helped him break out of his shell and learn what it truly meant to be himself. As he says, the rest was history. After working for a teen youth organization for 7 years in both the New York and West Coast area, he went to Fordham University School of Social Work, where he received his LMSW, and he's now a practicing social worker. It's his passion and life goal to help people feel happy, confident, fulfilled, and powerful in their everyday life. Ellie has gone on to create ELIvation, which I love that word, by the way, where you're using that, a program that focuses on public speaking, confidence boosting, relationship coaching, mental health, general motivation, and inspiration. And he's also been featured on the Kelly Clarkson Show. All right, brother, welcome, man.
That was a deep dive into my website bio right there.
Yeah.
I have an updated one of like being an LCSW and a podcast host, but yeah, that's basically the gist of it. When I was younger, I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself because of my diagnosis of ADHD. It kind of threw me off a lot. But over the years, learning, growing as a person, I found skills that I knew I can translate to other people, which is why I became a therapist. And now I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I have a private practice, work at a group practice, and doing the best I can,
Okay. All right. We're done. I'll see you next time. Wait, before I want to dive in, but before we get there, share with the listeners where you're from originally and where you're
originally from
now.
Long Island, New York.
Okay. Where in Long Island?
Nassau County, West Hempstead.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. I used to, well, I'm from New York originally. I used to live in Long Island. So, awesome.
That's how we're connected.
Nice. All right. So let's dive into it. So, when you were younger, you said you just didn't feel like yourself. How did that manifest for you? What was that like?
Well, it was a weird place to be because I thought I knew that I was confident. Like I felt I was confident. I had a lot of social skills. I was out there, but really I wasn't. It was all in my head because in reality it was too much for people. I didn't understand the balance of social cues and how to navigate picking up on people's emotional vibes that they were trying to let me know that, hey, you're a lot right now. You're interrupting me, or all these kind of things. So I thought I was in the right. And through therapy, really understanding, taking a backseat perspective of my ADHD and where it kind of got me, I've learned to take it as a superpower to be able to understand where to put my energy and where to kind of step back my energy to let someone else shine. Mm-hmm. So it was a fun experience, a hard experience, but it's been a long road and I'm here now.
Okay. So what age are we talking about when that started for you?
Oh, I was diagnosed with ADHD like 8 or like 7 or 8.
Okay.
I was always like jumping and dancing and all over the place, energy up the roof. I was all over the place. And my teachers would say that I was always dancing and singing in class. I had a lot of energy. It was a good time. I really, really thank my parents for their patience as a kid.
There just remind me of this a great TED Talk. I don't know if you've seen it, but it was one of the most downloaded TED Talks. Okay. Yeah. Sir Ken Robinson. Sir Ken Robinson. His first TED Talk, he talks about this woman. He talks about, he recently passed away, amazing dude, but he was really a champion for education and creativity in education. Mm-hmm. And the way that we as a society and as a world educate people. Yeah. And he shares this one story of this dancer who was getting into a lot of difficulty at school, wasn't being able to pay attention and so forth. And this dancer shares a story that her mom took her to see this doctor, and her mom was really nervous and everything, and describing kind of what you're describing about bouncing off the walls. And the doctor said, you know what, let's just leave, we'll call her Lisa in the room. The girl was like, I think 9 or 10. Let's leave her here for a second. Let's just step outside. And the mom and the doctor stepped outside, and before they left, the guy turned on the radio, and they watched her through the window in the door, and she started dancing. Mm-hmm. And the guy said, you know what, there's nothing wrong with your daughter. she's a dancer. She's not
Yeah.
sick. She's a dancer. And it was beautiful. So you talked about, making this your superpower. And I don't know, I just really appreciate that.
Well, yeah, because sometimes, I work a lot with kids, teenagers really specifically, and that mentality of parents of coming in saying, my kid has X, Y, and Z, or he's had a struggle with X, Y, and Z, or this is the diagnosis that another person has put on him, solve
Right.
her, fix her. And for all therapists who are listening, we get that a lot, like fix my child.
Right.
And sometimes it's really about the therapist sitting there and watching and observing and seeing past whatever that CPT code is, or whatever that diagnosis kit is, or whatever that label on a child or that teenager or even the adults, and to look past it to kind of see them for who they are. And one of the things, I am certified in trauma focused CBT, and I do work a lot with trauma. And I know I can say this here. I love working with trauma, because a lot of it is looking past the trauma, like
Right.
seeing the person for who they are, not because of their trauma, which is sometimes hard when you don't know how to do that. So it has taught me to see past someone. I even eventually went into like I was in like a boys singing group for a male for about 4 or 5 years, where I traveled America and the world a little bit, to sing and dance. Like I use that energy to do that. And now
Nice.
as a father, I sing and dance with my daughter all the time. So like I utilize that energy that I have for hopefully good, and has taught me to kind of look past someone's maybe symptoms that we see on the outside, but what's really inner, and
Nice.
past
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate that. All right. So you get diagnosed at a young age. You have these challenges. At what point did you go to therapy? You start
Oh,
therapy
throughout since I was
throughout.
like 8 or 9. I was on medication, Adderall, Ritalin, Concerta, Vyvanse, all
Wow.
the medications, trying
Okay.
the different combinations. Eventually stopped when I was in college, um, because I felt I didn't need it, and I learned how to kind of balance and deal with it on my own in a healthier way. Not that I'm saying that medication's wrong. If it's for you and you're still utilizing it and it's helping you, good for you. I just felt I didn't need it anymore and learned how to be able to handle it differently. It doesn't mean it doesn't creep up sometimes. It doesn't mean that ADHD doesn't kind of get in the way sometimes of my life, my thought process, my brain, getting things done, organizing, and stuff of that nature. But it was a long journey to kind of learn what I needed for myself to be able to
Mm-hmm.
balance for me.
And did you go to college specifically to become a therapist?
I went to undergrad at Touro University, just for majoring in psychology, but eventually went to Fordham grad school specifically to be a social worker. Yeah, an
Okay.
LCSW to
How did
eventually get my LCSW.
Okay. Now, talk us through how things unfold such that you wanted to work with kids and realize that.
So I don't specifically work with kids. I like to work with teenagers and young adults.
Teenagers. Okay.
Kids scare me. Even though I love children and I'm a parent myself, I struggle with my skills being able to. I'm not certified in play therapy and all those other kind of therapy styles, so I'm not really well versed and
Okay.
don't have the confidence to deal with younger children.
Okay. I
Um,
apologize. I misspoke.
no, no,
So
no, it's fine.
teens.
Yeah, but in a non-therapeutic sense, I'm great with kids. I'm fun. I sit down and I play. I connect on their level. But as a therapist, I don't have that same feeling. But definitely with teens and young adults, it's funny when I was in grad school and people would ask me, "What do you want to be your specialty? Like, what do you want to go into?" And I said, "Trauma is part of it, relationships." And I love doing marriage and relationship work. And I also love teens and young adults. And they all thought, they're like, "What is wrong with this guy? Teens? Who wants to work with teens?" And I love working with teens because it's such an iconic time in someone's life to learn skills to help them for their future. As parents, that's what we're doing. We're educating for our kids to be adults.
Right.
So, as a therapist, to be able to be there with them as an objective, healthy role model, a healthy viewpoint, a healthy mindset to help them kind of grow on that journey is something that I find is an unbelievable experience and an honor for me. It's not so easy, but it's very hard at times. But it is an experience that I love. And same thing for young adults, like that college age kind of maturity level to be able to go further in their life.
Mhm. Um, how long have you been doing that? Working with teens specifically?
5 years or so
Okay.
as a therapist, around 5 years. I worked at a youth organization, where I was part of a team where I would run events. It was a religious organization, run events and kind of things in that nature to kind of give teenagers a safe space to go, to feel comfortable, to have social settings, for about 7 years. Yeah, it was fun times, but that wasn't as a therapist. That was just a side job or a hustle kind of thing that I
So
do.
you've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
5 years is a good chunk of time. Share with us, Ellie, if you can, a, a gold nugget of what you've learned in working with teens. For example, maybe you started off thinking, all right, I'm going to do this or
Yeah.
be this way. And now you realized, something else.
I definitely, the two things that I've learned is that I have to let the teenager kind of set the pace. Because a lot of times parents and educators are trying to force or push a certain narrative for what they want the teens to do. And therapy is supposed to be a comfortable zone where they feel that they have the power in the relationship to be able to make them feel comfortable. So really it's about letting them lead. It's letting them kind of, instead of me as a young therapist, I used to like jump in and try to talk and try to get them and push them and, shape them and whatever words you want to use to kind of get them to talking. But really I had to kind of take a step back and wait to give them that space to be able to join in the process and buy in to the therapy process. The second thing is really how to handle parents. And that's a hard thing that is part of working with teens is parents, and how to balance that parent kind of style of being able to sometimes bring the parent in or to do parent individual sessions on parenting, because sometimes that can be part of the problem or the issue for the teenager. And the third thing I would say is don't try to be cool or hip. Like that doesn't work. They see right through that garbage. They see right through all the words you're trying to use and the lingo you're trying to figure out. Just be yourself and be as authentic, because that matters to teenagers a lot more. Whether they call you a weirdo or a nerd or you're old or whatever word they might use to joke around and make fun, but don't try to be something you're not, because teenagers are so amazing at reading past that, seeing right through you, and you're going to lose their respect.
Was that a mistake you made when you were starting out?
No, I just, something I've learned, the lessons I've learned over the years of working with teens. It's like as my position when I was in the youth organization, I was higher up in the youth organization. I would train the advisors, the volunteers, the college kids who were helping with the teenagers. And I would notice that they would, and I did this also when I first started, I would dress a certain way and act a certain way and talk a certain way. And sometimes when you just threw all that away and you just connected with a teenager and just talked to them like a person, talk to them like an adult, talk to them like a grown up and not like a baby. And I've gotten that a lot, where I've had teenagers, when they come to therapy, they say like, don't do X, Y, and Z. My last therapist literally gave me handouts for children. Like I'm not a child. I'm a teenager. I'm smarter than that. I'm more mature than that. And sometimes it's really about seeing past their age and looking at them as something a lot more than what their age really does tend to show.
So you obviously have a passion for this and connecting with and impacting and inspiring teens and young adults. From your own experience, did you get that? Was there a particular therapist that just like inspired you, or on the other side, was there one where you like, stop?
No, growing up when I was in therapy, it wasn't that a therapist was inspirational. I found the importance of them. I had older female therapists. I never really went to a male therapist growing up. I don't know why. I think my parents thought I would connect with a woman because I was more of an emotional driven kid. Still am. I'm a very emotionally aware man. I'm very emotionally in tune. I think that's partly because of my ADHD, which makes me very vulnerable and emotional. Like I can share and be authentic and not worry about that backlash or judgment of looking weak, having emotions. So that I think they thought that women and female therapists also, therapists are usually more female oriented position. But that being said, my mentors were from the youth organization. I was involved in the same youth organization as a kid. So my mentors and the people I looked up to, the male figures in my life, I said to myself, I want to be that for someone else. I want to be able to give that person to look up to and to kind of have that person to talk to rely on. So that's why I got involved in the youth organization, which gave me my passion for wanting to be a licensed personality, a licensed person to help them actually with practical, real research-based tools than just a nice, deep, meaningful conversation or a chit chat or a hangout. I wanted something deeper and actually more real changing than just the surface.
Nice. So ELIvation.
Yeah.
How did that come about? What is it?
Well, It started because when I was a licensed master social worker in LMSW, I couldn't have a private practice. So I didn't have someone to supervise me, legal things and all that kind of jargon that we get into as therapists. Um, so I wanted to find a way to reach people to create a more digestible and approachable mental health. So I created ELIvation as an Instagram account. Um, I think my friend, his name is Neil. He said, "Oh, that'd be such a cute name, Elevate, ELIvation. Oh, great!" And he's the one who came up with the name. Shout out to him. And so,
Ellie
yeah,
elevation. Yeah.
ELIvation. Oh, that's so great. And so I started the Instagram account, and little by little, just posting real things about mental health, about honesty about mental health, authentic mental health, and kind of getting into the role of what the modern therapist is today, which is more out there on social media, talking about things on social media. And now my handle is Ellie Weinstein _ LCSW, because now I'm an LCSW. And I made the website to be a place to kind of find for speaking engagements and that kind of stuff. And it's going to be part of my new website. It's going to be a piece of my more professional website, but it is something that I'm passionate about speaking to teenagers and to college campuses and at companies and organizations about approachable, digestible mental health, so that it's not all the jargon and the big words that therapists like to use, but
Mhm.
something that's actually attainable, that the people can understand and connect with, and hopefully grow from. And we'll see what happens with it.
Mhm. Well, that's a good point you're making, and an interesting topic in terms of, you know, kind of a shift that's happening with mental health.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Naomi Osaka, who the famous tennis player, and
Yeah.
her, and there are countless other examples of, be they sports figures, or even with Bruce Perry and Oprah's book,
Yeah.
right? Huge things are becoming much more publicized and out in the open. What's your take on this shift, and
Well,
how it's happening? What does it look like to you?
Well, I personally love it because as someone who has, mental health diagnosis in the past, and currently struggles with ADHD and sometimes anxiety like everyone else, I think it's important to see people that look like they have it all together, that look like they're perfection in the world, in the eyes of the world, whether it's Oprah, whether it's athletes like Kevin Love or DeMar DeRozan on the Spurs, and even Naomi Osaka and all these other players who look like, because they have money and success, that they don't have problems, they don't have
Right.
mental health struggles, but that they do. Because we, as regular quote unquote humans, need to understand that it happens to everyone. I think the numbers right now of the statistics, I think it's 1 in 6 people in your vicinity, or you might know, 1 in 6 people struggle with mental health. There are billions of people on this earth. That's a
Right.
massive number. So to create more normalization and taking away the stigma and talking about it more, and Bruce Perry, who is one of my books that I love, the books that I love to read is him, and Oprah, to do that is something that is now a new thing. And therapists on social media talking more about mental health, having more access to mental health ideas, topics, tips, and tools. And then if
Mhm.
you like that, getting in touch with that therapist and hopefully getting services by them is something that is not as the older generation of therapists did. And not that they
Right.
weren't successful, but it's now a newer thing that I think is just making it more approachable and accessible, which I think is needed.
Right. And you talked about just being real and being authentic. Do you see your mission as that within the context of working with teens and young adults, or what?
No, I think that's part of it. I think being authentic and real is just what it means to be a better human. I think the more authentic and real we are with ourselves and the people around us, it makes us just good. It makes us great. It makes us wonderful, because we don't look like we have it together. I think there was this time and an age of therapists being put on a pedestal, of being gods and goddesses, being this, they have it all together and we
Right.
don't. And I'm not saying that you need to divulge, and there has to be a balance of how much you share as a therapist on your social media platforms, how much you're sharing in your office. Of course, you need to create those boundaries and ethics that you live by. It doesn't mean that I'm now going to tell my clients my social security number and my address and what fight I had with my wife the night before. That's
Right.
not what I'm doing. But being authentic with struggles of being a father, struggles of being married, like just general ideas of, I'm human, struggles happen, here are some tips and tools that you can learn about, just makes you more relatable when someone comes into your office. You're not this I'm a cold-hearted, removed person, but another human sitting across from you who has experiences, maybe not the same way, but maybe similar in some way, that brought them into your office, that they can kind of connect with you in some way. That's
Mhm.
just my personal feeling. I don't know if it's right. I don't know if it's wrong, but I know that is the movement that is happening with the modern therapist it's coming out in the past 5 years or so.
So in terms of your quote unquote mission, that's part of it. What else is part of it, would you say?
I really just want to have mental health in people's homes. My biggest thing in life, I have goals. I have about 6 titles of books I would like to write in the future, um, which hopefully that happens. I'm a terrible writer, which is why I have a podcast. But it's about kind of creating that place for people to have access to mental health and find someone that they can look up to, find a voice that they can connect to. Whether it's the Brene Brown of the next generation that's a male, because Brene Brown is changing the world on vulnerability and authenticity. And people look at her as this amazing human being who's doing so much for the world. And she is changing the world on showing up in a different way. I would like to, that my goal is to create that idea and be in people's homes when it comes to finding a healthy source of mental health tips, tools, and a role model for their life.
Nice.
I know it's a
Nice.
big deal. It's a big dream. It's a big dream.
Well, it's as the saying goes, it takes one step. You start with one step, and you're certainly there. How the heck did Kelly Clarkson come about?
I have no idea. I was literally sitting in my office. It was, I think, a Monday. I had a packed day on my schedule. My wife just got me AirPods, and I had my AirPods in, and I was, listening to music, typing notes, and all of a sudden my phone exploded. I got a LinkedIn message through my website, through I don't know, my phone, just every aspect or a way of social media. I was reached out to by the producers of Kelly Clarkson because they were doing a little piece on mental health and fatherhood. It was
Wow.
in the beginning of the show. I think they were finding different pieces. I think it was like a mental health Monday. I forgot their tagline, whatever it was. And they were hosting the main person. His name is Muhammad. His account is called Chronicles of a Daddy. And he's like really bringing light to the Black community, males, men, fathers in the Black community showing up for their family. And they wanted a therapist, and they wanted someone who liked one of his posts, I think. And they found me. I don't know how. And it was supposed to be a little segment with me just alone about mental health and fatherhood. Of course, as TV goes, that got kind of cut. But in the end, I was on the couch talking to Kelly Clarkson about mental health and
How
fatherhood.
cool is that?
And it was a really amazing experience. And I'm still trying to work on things with them and figure things out. And who knows what happens in the future.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah. And she's a really nice person, by the way.
Very
Really,
cool.
she's actually really nice. She gave me a big hug, and she whispered in my
Nice.
ear, she says, "Thank you for moving all your clients for me," because I had to move my schedule around. Like,
Oh,
she actually noticed, and it was a great experience.
good for you. Good for you. Well, look, man, you are one inspiring dude. Tell us about your podcast.
So I have a podcast called The Dude Therapist. It's called that because I'm a dude who happens to be a therapist, bringing kind of a male voice to mental health. But I talk about all things across mental health and wellness and motivation. I have guests on. I have my own things, my own monologues. I've been doing it for about a year or so, and it's really exciting for me. I love connecting with other people, other mental health professionals, other wellness people in the wellness world, kind of bringing a voice to growing and success. And it's really fun for me. It's a hobby of mine. And I love it. I really do. I really love it. And who knows where that takes me. But as of now, I really don't care. I'm just enjoying it.
Awesome. So the dude therapist, what's the best way for people to reach you, Ellie?
Through the Dude Therapist.
Okay. Yeah, in
Yeah.
general and the dude
Well,
therapist.
I have a social media account, Ellie Weinstein _ LCSW on Instagram. I have an Instagram, The Dude Therapist, which is my podcast. And soon to have a website, ELIWeinsteinLCSW.com. My old website is ELIvation.org.com was taken. So just trying, you can reach out any way possible, and you can listen to my podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and any other podcast hosting site.
All right. Awesome. As we wind down here, how about a go-to book recommendation, whether therapy related or not? What do you got?
So I have two of my favorite, I'll give you two of my favorite books. One of my favorite books is The Last Lecture by, I think his last name is Pouch,
Yeah.
and he passed away. It's basically, he was a professor, I think in Pittsburgh, and he gave like a last talk that he wanted to enlighten and give his kids and his children and his students and his family like a last goodbye. I think there was a YouTube video about it,
Yeah,
a
there
speech,
was.
but the book is so moving. I read it
Oh,
every couple of years as a father, as someone who tries to connect with my child, it is something that brings me to tears every time I read it, because it's so beautiful and moving, the lessons he learned and the things he wanted to impart for his kids that are actually valuable and meaningful. When it comes to therapy and mental health, I read a lot of nonfiction books. I love reading, and I would say the two moving books that I go to is Raised by Dogs by Bruce Perry is one of my favorite. Dr. Bruce Perry, one of my favorite books on trauma.
The boy who was raised
The
as
Boy
a
Raised by a
dog.
Dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always get that wrong. The Boy was Raised by a Dog, and I'm really into Brene Brown, just because it's such a simple, easy read, and it's something that you can connect to, and I just find her relatable. And of course, Bessel van der Kolk, When the Body Keeps a Score. So, but really, Dr. Perry, I can read anything by Dr. Perry. I love his book, Born for Love, as well. Wonderful, wonderful book.
Awesome. Ellie, thank you, man. Check out the Dude Therapist, and congrats on getting to 50 episodes.
Thank you. It's exciting.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, brother, man, I really appreciate it. So once you get that new URL or website up, we can connect there, put everything on the show notes page.
For sure.
It's traumatherapistpodcast.com. Awesome, brother. All right, man. Take care.
Thank you so much.
All right.